Hello and welcome to the Education on Fire podcast. The place where we share creative and inspiring learning in our schools. Season 1, Episode 5.
Hello and welcome back to the Education on Fire podcast with Mark Taylor. Today I'm delighted to be joined with George Billington, who's an NQT teacher at the Hardingstone Academy, which is a school that I've been working at during this autumn term, doing some samba workshops. And the reason I wanted to come in and chat to him was because I've had a really interesting experience with the class who are really keen on the music that we're doing, but just there's an atmosphere which just the positive effect that keeps getting reinforced all the time has been a really interesting thing to witness. So I wanted to chat to George and sort of see where his philosophy comes from, where his ethos comes from, and see if there's anything in there that can really help you as a teacher, especially those of you that are new to the profession. So, hi George, thanks for joining us.
No worries. How are you?
I'm brilliant. Thank you very much. So, first of all, can you give us a little bit of a background of your teaching experience and your training, and so as we get sort of an idea of where you are in your sort of teaching journey?
Yeah, no worries. So, as you've said, I'm an NQT. This is my first proper teaching position up in Hardingstone in Year 4. I did work as a teaching assistant in a primary school in Bristol for a year, in Year 5 and 6. Build up to SATs and all of that was all pretty stressful, but not as the teacher. I guess I could kind of chill out a little bit. Didn't give me a proper insight into what the world of teaching is, I wouldn't say, until I got to my PGCE in Manchester, where I was on 2 placements, an 8-week placement and a 10-week placement, an 8-week placement in Year 6 and then a 10-week placement in Year 1, which I thought that kind of gave me an insight into what the world of teaching would be like. But then when I started here in September, you kind of just realise that you don't have a safety net anymore. The experiences that you're going to have as an NQT in a classroom of your own are totally different. So it's been a big learning curve. It really has, having my own class and having the responsibility of nurturing these young minds when when I have had the safety net of a mentor, of another class teacher all the time. So my experiences to date, I'd say I've learned the most being in this classroom, being with this in this school as a qualified teacher. It's been a real steep learning curve.
I guess I always think it akin slightly to learning to drive, where you you have that kind of, I know all the things, I've passed my test, so I must be able to do it, and then you go out on your own for the first time, and it's those, certainly for me anyway, the first few weeks, the first few months is when you really learn to drive, because you then become aware that it's completely down to you, there's no one there to...
You've not got your friendly driving instructor sat next to you in the passenger seat. And
with his foot on the brake pedal.
the dual control. My colleague over in Year 3, she said to me in my first couple of weeks when I was finding the whole thing very stressful, and I remember she said that when you're qualified, they place this NQT crown of qualification on your head and expect you to just be like, right, you're done, you can go ahead and you can go into the world of teaching and you can fly. But it just, that crown doesn't make me feel didn't make me feel any more confident to get the best for these children than I did before I'd qualified, really. The NQT crown of qualification, she called it, and I feel like it's been placed on my head, but I've still got a long way to go.
It doesn't come with the experience, it just comes with the qualification.
Yeah, exactly,
And you said you did a PGCE. Why did you do that rather than a teaching degree, or why that route particularly?
Well, I did have a job as in and out of school club when I was in 6th form, so 10 years ago now. I worked with they were 4 to 11-year-olds, and when I was working in that position, even though it was kind of a 6-hour-a-week job, I really, really enjoyed it. I felt like I took to it quite well, even if it was just playing the N64, or that shows how long ago it was, or making crowns, running around in the playground bit. I really enjoyed my time there. So I wanted to get into a profession that involved that, but also kind of was a bit more, there's more of a career path to it perhaps. So when I didn't do a teaching degree, because when I'd left school, I took a couple of years out. I worked in an office for a bit, and because I hadn't worked with children for a while, I wasn't sure if maybe my ability to work with them or my passion for it was still going to be there by the time I'd finished this education degree that I might have done. So I did a more, in inverted commas, academic degree, if you like. I did a history and philosophy, did an arts degree. And then by the time I'd finished that, I then did a little bit of volunteering in school and realised that, probably was something, well, not probably, it obviously was something that I wanted to pursue. So then I did some volunteering in a school down the road from here. And then that's when I got my TA position in Bristol to see if I was suited to it, because volunteering is one thing, but then actually being in a classroom is another, as a paid person kind of thing, with the extra responsibility that comes with that. And found that I'd still wanted to go ahead with it. And then that's when I went for the PGCE, which was perhaps a difficult, maybe I was thinking perhaps more like a teach first qualification or a school direct qualification may have been a little bit more suitable, because I'm one of those people that learns practically on the job kind of thing. It's all very well sitting me in a lecture theatre and talking to me about classroom management for 3 hours, but when all said and done, you need to be able to put that into practice in a classroom. So the PGCE again was a more academic route, if you like, going into the university and submitting these 3,000 word essays and things, when really the most learning that I ever did was on my placement, which before I knew it they were over. So didn't do a teaching degree, so I just wasn't sure if it was what I wanted to do, but here I am. So
that makes a lot of sense. And that the course that you did is just for a year, is that right?
9 months, September to June, right? Yeah,
and that includes your placement time and everything as well. So it really is sort of crammed in. And so do you feel that, I guess, that ideally, in hindsight, you might have wanted more time to spend in the classroom, and I guess from the academic side as well?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did, obviously, the things that we learnt from the academic side, writing the essays and conducting the research, was useful in terms of pedagogy and things like that. But I do think that the people because the Manchester University do run a school direct course, so I don't know if maybe the people that did that course perhaps learnt more about what it actually takes to teach and what teaching is like than perhaps myself and the other people on the PGCE side of it did. Not to say that it equipped me as well as I think it could, but perhaps maybe not as much as a more practical based course would do. And
what do you think is was the best part of the course? What do you think really gave you the most support in terms of what you've now experienced as an actual teacher?
Yeah, the university was good for things like subject content. So they had broken down the science curriculum, and we'd have weekly sessions on just science, basically learning science, and we had so many sessions on experiments we could do in the classroom to teach it in a more effective way, because the curriculum now is all about scientific inquiry. So it was good to actually find out how to put that into practice and get some good ideas for that. And maths, even though perhaps we spent a lot of time in university and might have liked to have had more in the classroom, they taught us good ways to actually embed a sense of number, because of the whole mastery grade step thing that's been brought in with maths. It was they taught us a lot of different ways, like even something simple like understanding how column addition works. I'd never thought about the place value aspect of it and things like that. So me now, when I'm teaching place value, I will always insist on certain vocabulary being used, and they say, one takeaway 7, you can't do that. Well, you can, because it goes into negative, but I'll insist on saying we don't do that in column subtraction. We need to exchange and things like that. So it was good for that. It was good to give me the insight into what it actually takes to teach properly and not teach misconceptions within the children. And the placement side of it was really useful for just I think things like classroom management. I think I referenced that before. Behaviour management, you can't really sit and tell somebody, oh yes, you should do this and read an article about this. I mean, yes, it's a good basis for it, but until you actually get in and try it, you're not really going to be able to find out if that works for you or works for your class that you're working with. So
that brings us nicely down round to I've sort of come involved in your class. As an external person coming in doing music, it's been really interesting seeing how the class dynamic works, and I guess I've been into hundreds of schools in the last sort of 12 or 13 years, and I would say this is a very nice school. It's a very good school. I would say you kind of get a class which is full of the sorts of people you would expect. You have a wide range of abilities. You have quite a wide range of probably social backgrounds and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you have a broad spectrum here, but within a very supportive environment, which is absolutely key. So can you explain a little bit about how you go about managing is the wrong word, supporting and inspiring the children in that context? So you could call it classroom management, but I think it's much more about the individual stories of the children and how you go about learning that and how that sort of supports each child.
Can I use the word nosy? Like, I really like talking to the children and getting to know them. I mean, the first couple of weeks we did spend a lot of time kind of writing things about ourselves, what they've done over the summer holidays, what their interests are. I'll be nosy with them. I'll get to know them, and I really like building that relationship up with them. But at the same time, it's keeping the boundaries as well, so they know that yes, Mr. Billington can have fun, and we like to enjoy ourselves in the classroom, and I don't take myself too seriously in the right context. But they also know that I won't take any mess in at all. I can get. I don't think you've had to really properly see it in your Samba sessions with us, but I can get cross and when I need to. So, and they know that as well, and they know the boundaries that they can and can't cross. I mean, just admitting this now on the internet, but they will rip me about my sweat patches on my armpits, and I don't care, like, because that's just something that I'm not sensitive about it. I'm not bothered. But if they're shouting out or if they're not being nice to each other, then that is when they know that that's a boundary that they can't cross. And
how do you take the opposite side of that in terms of and supporting them? You've got a chart on the wall in terms of sort of how they're working that day, and they sort of move up and down depending on how their behaviour is, and how do you sort of enforce that sort of positive energy within each of the lessons?
So what sort of the strategies like that I employ in my classroom or the whole school?
Well, tell me first of all, is it something which is a school-based strategy, or is it something which is something which is more personal?
Right. Well, we've got the dojo, the class dojo, which I inherited from my colleague in Year 3, because he said it earlier when we were chatting beforehand, that you've noticed some maturity, I think, in this class.
Absolutely.
From the week that I wasn't here to the week that I wasn't here recently, they've come on a lot. They really have grown up. But I was told, or it was kind of suggested, that they work well and they respond well to this class dojo system, even though you could argue that it's perhaps a little bit childish to the children, but a little bit kind of below their age range. They do respond really well to it. So we've got the class dojo. We've got the I just do things like they were really, really loud and noisy and silly when they used to go and get their coats and bags at the end of the day. So I've just done this thing where I will give them a time limit, and they have to go and get their coats and bags sensibly, and if they taught, then they add 10 seconds onto the time penalty. I just sit there, stare at my stopwatch, and they just are like soldiers going out there. They do not make a sound, and they come in, and then if they do it 4 times in the week, then they move down onto the treat track, which is another whole school policy thing. Just a lot of positive language as well. Positive praise goes a real long way. And I know it sounds stupid to say because they're 9 years old, so of course they respond to positivity, but it just they really are, especially this class, are so eager to please. They want a thumbs up, they want a smile. So if you give it to them, and when they deserve it, then they know to continue to
Yeah.
behave in the way that you expect them to.
And I think also it's very easy to get into an idea that actually they want to be naughty or they want to be disruptive, but generally speaking they just want the contact.
Yeah.
And so if they can get the contact in a positive way and you can reinforce something good that they've done, they're getting what they actually want. And that's key, isn't it? I think just sort of knowing the story behind them, actually seeing the bigger picture of why they're doing whatever it is that they're doing, and being able to just sort of direct them, I guess, in a way which is supportive for them as well as for you, and then of course the rest of the class as well, because obviously you're working in an environment with sort of 30 children, so therefore actually that's a really positive thing for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. If you're able to keep the disruption to a minimum, but at the same time make that child feel like their contributions or their presence is welcome, then yeah, it's a win-win situation. We do have some difficult characters in this class as well. By no means are they a bunch of angels, but then what group of 8 or 9 year olds are. We do have some difficult characters, but yeah, like you say, you do need to just learn what those children are after when they are being disruptive, when they are trying to, you know, be the class clown or get on other people's nerves. What do they actually want? Well, they want somebody to pay attention to them.
I think that's it, and I think one thing I've really noticed as well, which has been really, really positive, is the fact that it only needs to be a small gesture. It just needs a bit of eye contact. It needs something which is just kind of, I know you, you know me, we're in this together, and you know, and we can make it work, even if it's just progressing on something that you're learning now, or just generally speaking, you know, we really want to do this. And some of the backstory to wanting to come in and speak to George today was because I guess I've been here sort of 8 or 9 weeks.
Yeah, it's a little while now.
So I've sort of got an idea of how these things have gone. And one of the earlier weeks, George was on a course, and it was a more tricky week. The kids definitely wanted to sort of see where the boundaries were and how that was. And then a few short weeks later, so it was only a couple of weeks ago, he was on a course again, and just the change in attitude was amazing. Just, you know, they've developed so far in just those few short weeks. And we had a conversation which went along the lines of kind of I know we'd had a conversation before you'd gone away, and I could just say that, you know, Mr. Billington was really keen to. He knew that you'd want to do well in this class. He wants you to enjoy the music that you're doing. He knows you're enjoying it, and he's absolutely certain that it'll be a really great day. And I was able to sort of pass that on in a way, just to sort of set the scene as if he was almost in the classroom. And but it changed the whole atmosphere. They were really wanting to do it for themselves and for you, which was absolutely fantastic. And not only that, because we've been doing it for a few weeks as well, we had a really good session too, so lots of the musical things sort of clicked and went into place. And one of the things I'm really keen on is that they get to feel what it's like, and I think the feeling is really important. And as a musician, there's something that happens, and when it all starts to really sort of come together, everyone goes, oh right, okay, this is a different type of thing. And the two things sort of combined, they had that feeling of sort of feeling like they were supporting you even though you weren't here. They were supporting each other, and also they actually felt the benefit of all of those things coming together. And it was exactly the same class, exactly the same room as it was those few weeks before, but all that positivity that's gone on over those weeks, really, I think they really felt it, and lots of positive energy coming from the children themselves to some of the other children, just saying, no, let's do this. I really want to spend the time doing this. No, let's, you know, we know now that we don't pick up all the instruments as soon as we've got them. We want to listen. We want to know what's going on, and just some of those basic skills, which are skills which need to be learnt, and depending on what the background of the school is, it depends on whether these things are already inbuilt or not. But in such a short time, they'd really picked up on all those things and really wanted to please you, I think, but also please themselves, because they know that there's a performance coming up. They really want to show everybody around what they've actually done. And I think their journey would have been a really sort of spectacular one, and a really sort of steep curve from starting at a point where they've never done any sample before, to the point where they're actually going to do a really fantastic performance and a really supportive one within their groups of their instruments, but also as a whole class. They're going to have a whole class ensemble, and that's been an actually fantastic experience from them, I think.
It was a struggle and it was a slog. I had a list of expectations on the board every day, and every day I'd go through them and say, right, have you met this one? No. Right, we need to work on that one tomorrow. Have you met this one? No. Right, we need to work on that tomorrow. You know, and it sounds negative after we've talked about me being so positive the whole time, but it was just every time I saw that they had met one of those expectations, and then that's when the positivity comes in, and eventually I could rub off those expectations, and they were fairly embedded within the children. But they have, even certain individuals as well, they've come on so far, and the thing is, I don't really know if it's been anything that I've deliberately tried to do, apart from with setting my expectations. But I think, just I was explaining to you earlier, I think I am basically a child at heart anyway, with a beard and I'm 6 foot, but I also am able to have that relationship with the children, but then because they like to respond to me and they like me to respond positively to them, but then, like I say, just keeping the boundaries, and they know what I expect now. And it was really nice. We hadn't had a proper conversation about what they were like that other Thursday, but it's really good to know that they were wanting to actually, for themselves more than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, for me it's really nice, but for themselves, that they don't want to muck about because they know that they're not going to get anything out of it.
I think that's right, and also that there is an end point. As you sort of and we should point out at this stage that this journey that they've been on as a class, as well as just from a music point of view, is it's been dramatic, because we are only still in December and we're talking about you starting in September. So it's a big journey,
Yeah.
In actually quite a short amount of time, and to know that you sort of got them almost in the palm of your hand in terms of moulding them. I think you really have. You've still got 2 terms to go yet with this class, and and how they can develop from there. But I think knowing from the music side anyway that we've got a performance coming up, that they suddenly realise, it's what everything we do on a Thursday, and then all of a sudden, it's what we're not going to be doing. There is only a finite amount of time, and so therefore we want to make the most of it, and that's really good as well, because it just means that it brings everything back to the now. It's about what can we do today? How can we do it today? How can we make the most of it today? Because then tomorrow or the next time we do it, we've got a chance to really improve on it.
And each week is one less, and they're very aware of that, that it's coming close. There was that day when I thought we only had 6 weeks, and you came in and it was week 5, and I told them we've only got 1 week left. And then they were just they weren't at the level they needed to be, to put it politely. And then when I think I'd said to you so we need to sort out a date to perform it, and you went, we've still got another 4 or 5 weeks. And I think there's just a sense of relief that descended upon year 4. I don't think it's ever been felt in any other school, in any other classroom like it was that day. And I think that also kind of made them realise, it matters to me, it matters to them, it matters to you, and it matters because the parents are going to be coming in, and they that they want to be able to be actually doing it well.
Absolutely, and that's the bottom line. They want to show what they can do. They actually don't want to show anything else.
To show that we've not just been mucking about on a Thursday morning. We have actually been getting to grips with the rhythm and the musicality.
It is, and it's also so much more than just the music, because it seems like a really bizarre thing to say, but one of the hardest things to do, especially in a class which isn't used necessarily to doing lots of music, is you get them to the point where hopefully you can have a sense of, we need to be quiet now, we need to be listening to what's going on. And that's hard enough in any classroom. But then when you give every single child a musical instrument and all they want to do is play, which is a perfectly natural thing to understand, is really key. And one of the things I try and enforce as we go through is the fact that I could just come in and give them an instrument and we could just have a lot of fun, which would be brilliant, and they would get something out of that. But the kind of discipline that comes with just kind of, let's just leave it on the floor so that I can talk to you and I can explain what we're going to do. There's plenty of time to play. There's plenty of time to practice the things that we're doing. And then you can get a bit more in it. You can get more involved personally, and you can also get more out of it musically, and you can start to feel how that is. And so the discipline then enforces the experience that they get, and they can see that actually, while they might not always be able to see the whole process, that's our job as the teachers, sort of seeing the bigger picture of what's going on. We can actually support you to get the best out of that experience. So there's a bit of a two-way trust going now, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. And what I really like to watch as well with these guys is the concentration on their faces when they have picked up their instrument and it is a time for them to start playing. Just how focused they are. And there's certain names I could name, but they can just see how, and these little movements that you've been asking them to do to go along with it, and they're just so intent on actually doing what's been asked of them, but just not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more fun. That's the thing, I think.
Because I think they are getting
more. We've got more control.
Yeah, and they're getting a lot. They are realizing it's more fun to actually enhance the performance with these skills that you're trying to teach them, and put an instrument down and not mucking about with it. And
So it really sounds like it's a little bit of a joint experience for you, that you've had some of the support from your training in terms of some of the academic stuff and how you go about that sort of thing. And the school has some great things in place in terms of supporting and being positive for the children.
Yeah.
And also your own personality in terms of, like, say, how seriously or not you don't take yourself in any given situation, and how you relate to the children. I think that's a personal thing. So it really is a combination of all of those things, which I think is the secret to of your success.
Well, I think if I can just add that as well, our head is... her and I, we get on very well. We have a very similar personality as well, and she's always tells me that I teach how she teaches, and I have the same relationship with my class that she's had with her classes in the past. And I think because she's just an extremely positive, cheery person as well, but she's got that respect there as well. You know, if you do the whole "I'm very disappointed with you" line, they're crushed. The children are so devastated that they've upset this person in their life that they know they hold in such high regard, and who holds them in such high regard as well. So I think me coming into this school is a good experience for me, because I'm similar to our head as well. I think that we have a similar style, so they see it from her, they see it from me, they see it across the school.
So that's great. And then you see the whole ethos coming together then, because everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet effectively and doing one other thing I'd just like to, well, it crosses my mind, is the fact, one of the things I heard you say just as I was leaving one day was often after our sessions they go to assembly, and that you have some of the children stay back and you work with them. And you said something along the lines, and I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but you said something along, look, I want to be the best teacher I can. What is it that I can do to help? And I can't remember what the rest of that phrase was. But what I really loved about that was the fact that you don't, that whole statement isn't kind of I know everything, which I think the kids love, because then you're on a learning journey together. And I think the input that they feel they can help you, and then in turn you can support them, and that kind of learning together is absolutely key. And can you just tell me a little bit of where that comes from, or how that comes about, really?
I think it comes down to me just being brutally honest with them as well, because they know that they're my first class that I've been qualified in teaching with, and when I say to them, well, I don't remember saying that, but it does sound like the sort of thing I would say, because they know that I'm not infallible, or whatever the word is. They know that I'm making mistakes all the time, not to the detriment of their education, I hope, but they are fully aware that I'm human, and that I've got a lot to learn. I mean, they've come from my colleague in year 3, who was also an NQT, but she's extremely organised. She's, her lessons are so beautifully, meticulously planned, and they come to me, and I'm very different to her. So they've seen somebody that's got their, that's well put together, and has got her head screwed on, and they've come to me, who I'm a bit all over the place, I can be anyway, so they fully know that I'm not a robot, I'm not a mould of a perfect teacher. So I think so I have them for these sessions. They're basically a pre-teach for what we'll be doing in the subsequent maths lesson after. I do maths with them after you've gone, and then they have break time, and then they come back. But it's for the children that they see new maths and they just melt down. They can't handle it. So what? I do say to them, I call it a confidence boost. So I say to them, if you get a confidence from this, and I can show in your books that you've got it, then it makes me look good, is probably what I was saying to them, right? Like, it makes year 4 look like a really effective class in the school, and then they're like, hey, because they want to show me that they've made good work. They want to show our head as well. They're always taking their work down to her, but ultimately they do want me to succeed, I think. And because at the end of the day, I want them to succeed as well, because it's in my hands. Like, I couldn't live with myself if they exited my classroom at the end of in the middle of July and they hadn't learned anything. just being, well, what was the point of them of them sitting down, and what they do work hard, bless them, they do, and some of the stuff they produce is really, really good, and if that's for nothing, then I just couldn't. Yeah, that would sit awfully with me.
Yeah, and
so
that kind of real sort of, like I say, it's an emotional connection that's important from their point of view and from your point of view, so that you're in it together. That's what I think is often key.
So I think the way you phrase it probably made me sound better than I am when I was saying I want to be the best teacher I can be. But it's but I'm saying it to them so that they know that our books go, they're moderated and things. They did a piece of writing recently in English, and they knew from the moment they were writing it, they knew that was the piece of work I was taking to be moderated. So I was like, it's got to be the best you can possibly do, even though it's not how it works. I know the whole book gets looked through, but this was the main piece of work I was going to take. So I went, right, I really want you to make it the best you can be. I want to impress the senior management. I want to make everybody know that in year 4 we work super hard, and I've never known a classroom to be so silent without somebody, having a go at a class of children. And of course, they will be silent. But all I'd said was that, I really need this to be the best of me because I'm taking it to senior management after school. And it would have been a Thursday actually, because it was in the afternoon, and they just got on with it. Never been so silent. It was remarkable.
I mean, that is brilliant, because it's all positivity. It's all doing it. And I think one of the key takeaways from that type of thing, and I think it's one thing that's missed often, is just being aware that what that also does is it makes it relevant now. We're not learning about how to write a letter when I'm in my 20s. I'm doing a piece of work now, of many pieces of work that I do while I'm in school, which you just do because it's what you have to do. But in that moment, it had a lot of meaning, it had a lot of purpose, and it had a lot of emotional scope going on it. And from that, you get that positive. They're quiet, they're working, they're engaged in something which is happening now, and it's important.
But I'm keen to stress that it wasn't kind of they weren't we must get this done sort of thing. It was a more of we're rising to the challenge kind of atmosphere in the classroom, rather than.
I think that's perfect. I think from there you can do almost anything, and once they've experienced that as well, you can just replicate that, I guess, in different scenarios. Thanks so much for chatting. It's been brilliant.
That's all right.
Is there anything? Because part of the podcast, we're going to be following some trainee teachers through their courses and into their profession and that kind of thing. Are there any takeaways, having been through that and experienced the whole thing, that you would give us some advice or just some checks that just, this is the sort of thing that might happen, don't worry, or if you go in this direction it might help you? Is there anything that sort of advice you could give our listeners?
It's tricky really, because I got a kind of an idea of what teaching would be like from my training, and as I mentioned, it's not turned out to be completely like I expected it to be. I think it depends what school you're in as well, as to the kind of the expectations of what they're after. This school, I know they because of the nature of where they've come from and where they are today, they've got real high standards, which is good for me because it pushes me. And I like the fact that my books are monitored, and because I want to know that I'm doing the right thing. In terms of advice, I think you've just got to remain positive all the time, because there are people that you will come across that will try and be negative, and perhaps not even deliberately, but just want to sound off. And sounding off is absolutely fine, but I think when it becomes a daily battle, a deluge of negativity every day, and try not to be that person yourself as well, even if you maybe sound off to people that you don't work with, so that they're not getting the same, or that they're not maybe going to start thinking the same things as you, or start to think that that's the sort of person that you are, because I think most people in teaching, they go into it because they are positive people and they want to pass that on to the pupils. Just advice, it's really tricky because I don't feel like I am where I need to be at the moment anyway, so me giving advice, I don't think that I am at the level that I need to be just yet. So I
But do you think you'll ever be at the level? Because surely once you get to the level you think you're going to be, then you'll be something else and something more. Because I guess probably the reality is that the advice is that all the great experiences that you shared. That is the advice really, which is probably more pertinent than
maybe
than the pearls of wisdom at the end of the conversation. But I have got a lot to learn still, and I think that the advice I'd give is to just keep trying to slog at it, because there are times where it's going to be we're going to think that there's a mountain of stuff to do and you've got no time to do it, or are you actually able to do it? Have you got the capability to do it? But just go to the support that you can get. This school is incredibly supportive. I wouldn't have made it probably this far if it wasn't for my colleagues. So you've got to ask for advice when you need it. You've got to ask for help when you need it. Definitely don't flounder, because I was doing that for a bit and it didn't go well. No. The key thing there is find the support that you possibly can within the school. That's
or other sources. We were talking earlier about the way that the media is now. You can go anywhere for advice and ways to deal with things. I was lucky that I could go to people here, but source it in other places if you need to, because it is an extremely rewarding job at times. Sometimes it's super stressful, but sometimes you just look around and you think back across the day, you just think, I can't believe that I was able to get that out of those children, or that particular child who struggled with something and they've just flown with it. That is an amazing feeling. But you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and I need to remind myself of that on a daily basis.
So it really is accepting the good and the bad, as it were. It is all part of the same, just either side of the coin, depending on whatever the day is and whatever.
And it can flip so quickly. 1 minute you can be working with this child who's made such good progress, or they've they've made a comment towards you that's just really made you happy, and then 2 minutes later you can be dealing with some massive argument that's broken out on the playground, and it's between two children from your class, and you've got all the lunchtime assistants, and I'm talking from memory here, all the lunchtime assistants gathering around your classroom with this big drama that's gone on, and it's easy to just forget that anything positive has happened. But you've got to, I've got to, and it's a good idea to just try and remember that it's not all the negative things.
See the bigger picture as it goes.
Exactly.
Well, that's brilliant. Thanks so much for chatting to me.
Worries.
It's been really interesting, and as we said, do share your comments. Underneath, if you go to educationonfire.com, you can leave comments of anything that you've heard. Be really interesting to hear your experiences and your journeys, especially if you're an NQT. And also let us know the sort of support you need. If you're not getting the support that you need in your school, and there are certain things that you need, drop us a line. Let us know what it is, and maybe we can point you in the direction of a group or any questions that we can answer through the experience of the people that we know here at Education on Fire, and help you in any way that we possibly can. So, Freddie, thanks for listening, and we'll speak the next time.
Thank you for listening to the Education on Fire podcast. For more information, please go to educationonfire.com.